Time for an updated top 10. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got for you my new updated top 10 Stephen King books of all time. So earlier, like I said with Zocktober, I wanted to do 2 Kings that were in my top 10 and 2 that were out, see if I can get them in. And then in the midst of all that, I ended up reading, I think, 2 more Stephen King books that ended up in my top 10. So it actually pushed a lot of books out, and my whole thing is really jumbled around right now, which is great. There are a couple that got removed that some of you guys are going to be like, holy crap, how did that one get kicked out? But sometimes that happens. We will have these 10 linked down below if you're intrigued with any of them. We are also trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We are very close. I think we have fun on this channel. And I would like for you all to enjoy it as well. So if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And don't forget to like, comment, and again, subscribe. And let's get to my new and improved top 10 Stephen King list. Alright, coming in 10th place is Firestarter. So this was obviously one of the ones I did in the Zocktober reading vlog of the 4 books. If you have not checked out that video, check it out up here. This one originally was probably within the top 20, maybe 25, originally after I read it. After I reread it and I had seen the film, I kind of, like I said in the Salems Lot vlog, I kind of am a more visual person. I like imagining a character, but then with me being the person I am, I sometimes like just change how the character looks in the middle of me reading a book, so now I just kind of confuse myself. But after watching the film and then reading this again, great book. It was very phenomenal. All these are 5 stars, by the way, so I'm not even going to tell you what my ratings are because they're all 5. This book, originally when I did the reread, it was sitting at number like 6 or 7, and then I read another couple of books. That pushed it further, and I originally had this as number 9, and then right before we started filming, I was like, I kind of like this other one a little better, so it ended up getting pushed to number 10. So if you don't know what this is about a girl who can start fires, and her dad, who's got an ability called the Push. Pretty much he can like use his mind and tell people to do stuff. He actually tells somebody that like a gun is hot, and the person drops the gun because they think the gun's hot. He actually makes a person go blind. He's got really cool abilities. But the main person is Charlie, and she's the little girl who can start fires. And they're trying to run away from this place called The Shop, who did this experiment a while back on her father. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. And I just think the ending is great, and I think King needs to do another novel with Charlie in it. Like a sequel or something. So, there you have in 10th place, Firestarter. Alright, the one that was kind of flipping between 10th and 9th with Firestarter, ultimately this one beats it out just because I like the whole, like, the aspect of when they were children, the bondage of friendship, and that is Dreamcatcher. And I can already hear you guys saying, Zach, that book sucks. And I personally really like the story. Yeah, the whole alien stuff towards the end with a little like why, but the whole bondage of friendship they had. He was trying to get back to like his It roots with this. This is like a combination of like It and the Tommyknockers. I feel like I have not read Tommyknockers yet, but I know it's about aliens, and so I feel like this was like kind of like a combination of both. I'm yet to read Tommyknockers. Like I said, I really want to read that though. But this book is about a group of friends. When they're younger, they save this kid who's got Down syndrome, and what happens is they grow older together, and they go to this cabin called A Hole in the Wall, I think is what it is. And what happens is all of a sudden, like, the friends get split up, an alien invasion breaks loose, there's like this big disease that happens, and a lot of things are like really weird. There's things, I think I don't know if in the book they're called ass weasels or if it's in the movie. I think in the movie they're called S-H-I-T weasels, but in this I think they're called ass weasels. I don't remember, but they're really weird. There's a lot of farting in this book too. which obviously, I'm a fan of that. It makes me laugh. But it was a really solid book. I actually enjoyed the heck out of this, and this is something I read earlier this year, not as a reread, and it's probably in my top 10 books of the year, honestly. There's a very solid chance it could be. But obviously with a couple other ones that I read this year, it might have actually gotten pushed out. But that's besides the point. At number 9, my 9th all-time favorite Stephen King book as of right now is Dreamcatcher. Alright, coming in 8th place is Needful Things. This book was one that I actually just finished, and I gotta say, this book was really, really good. I really didn't think it was going to be all that great. I did end up watching the film. I watched like the 3-hour extended edition. Also a really good movie. I think I would give that probably about 3-4 stars. But this was phenomenal. I didn't expect a whole lot out of this because I was this way with Insomnia. I started Insomnia. I haven't finished it yet. Needful Things, it didn't start off fast, but it started off good. And the whole plot of Leland Gaunt is just incredible. He somehow has got this item in his store that he sells you, and the only thing you got to do is pay for it half in price, and the other half is with just a little prank, he says. And it leads to 2 women killing each other. It leads to the town just going in pure anarchy. And it's just, it's unreal. And there is one thing that I will say I disliked, and that was when... I think his name was Brian. It was the little kid who got the Sandy Koufax card. What ultimately happens to him at the end of his story, I thought it was unnecessary. I didn't like it, but I mean, it is what it is. It's a King book. Sometimes he does things to certain characters that you don't want, but he does it anyway. But it is what it is. Overall, 5 stars. Absolutely love this book. It was definitely something that was under the radar, and it's in my top 10. So there you have it. Number 8, Needful Things. Alright, in 7th place is a reread that I did, and I was very excited to get to this one, Salems Lot. This book ended up getting back into the top 10. There was a time where it wasn't a top 10, and then I kind of was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't think it's top 10 material. So it got booted out. And ultimately, at the end of the day, after I saw the film and reread the book, it's a top 10er. It's number 7. It's a really good book. The only problem I ran into is just like with Needful Things, is there's a lot of characters in this book. A lot, because you're following a whole town. And just like with Needful Things, you're following a whole town. It's not like a set cast of 4 or 5 people. It's like 20 people are mentioned. You got to remember all of them. And that's something I always kind of get lost in with books sometimes, is where there's 40 people you need to follow. That's why I had bad luck with a Gabby recommendation book like last year or something like that. But besides that, this book was really great. The Marsden house is such a creepy house. It's a creepy atmosphere. I know when I did a haunted house, I think it was a top haunted houses in Zocktober, somebody mentioned the Marsden house or the house on Neibolt Street from It, and I just didn't put them on that list. So sorry, whoever that was, I just didn't put it on the list. But this book was terrifying. There's a scene with a bus that's just eerie as heck. The window scene is... there's a lot of infamous scenes that were adapted into film, and they're just all creepy. Father Callahan's just a butt munch. I actually don't like him that much. For obvious reasons, but I just loved everybody in this book after I reread it, and obviously because it's number 7 on my list. So there you have Salems Lot at number 7. Alright, a book that used to be in the top 5 but got booted out because of a book, that ended up in the top 5 is Christine. This is one that I would like to reread eventually, but since it's already in the top 10, I don't think I need to reread it anytime soon. To me, the thing that gets me with this book is the friendship between Arnie and Dennis. I think it's a lot more depicted in the novel than it is in the film. And Christine is just a sexy car. A 58 Plymouth Fury, red, like, that's my dream car. Like, I want one. But they obviously don't make them anymore because it's not the 50s anymore. But it's a really solid story. Like, Arnie's downfall is just, like, depicted so well. There's a lot of things cut in the movie that are in the book. Darnell's demise in this book is a lot more, like, gruesome and a lot more creepy than it is in the film. In the film, he just gets, like, smashed by, I think it's the front seat of Christine. But in this, it's a lot more graphic. Like, very graphic. And I'm all for it. Also, the whole, like, Arnie having to do, like, little jobs for Darnell every now and again is in this. In the movie, he just has a brief line where he's like, I gotta run somewhere for Darnell, and that's it. In this, there's, like, whole chapters about him doing runs to different places and, like, doing stuff for him. And it's such a great book. I really would like to reread this again, but it's just phenomenal. I love it. And it's in my top 10. So, number 6, Christine. All right, coming in at number 5, we are in top 5 territory, and that is awesome. Number 5 is The Green Mile. This used to be at number 4, and then I read a certain book that pushed this out of the way. This book is great. It's 5 serial novels turned into one complete novel, and this whole book is great. It's not even a horror book by him, and it's just so cool. It's like this weird fantasy kind of book where you've got this guy named John Coffey who's got this really cool ability to where he can heal people, and he's on death row for something that you find out the truth about later on. I'm not going to say more than that, but if you can put 2 and 2 together, you can figure it out. But it's so cool, and he is accused of raping 2 little girls and then killing them. And when you find out what actually happened through, like, flashbacks, that's another ability he has. Like, he can show you his past, or he can show you the past in general when he touches somebody else. And it's just so cool. Paul Edgecombe has got this urinary tract infection or something like that, and John Coffey heals it. It's really weird how he does it. He's got to cup his nuts and heals them, but he does it. He heals them. And then the warden's wife is, like, dying of, like, cancer, and there's a whole chapter where they sneak him out to go and help her. It's such a good book. It was very hard to top this, and the next book did. And I was surprised it did, honestly. But I don't know if this will leave the top 10. It's just such a good book. A lot of people don't talk about it that often, but The Green Mile is just such a good book. Also, I like Mr. Jangles, the little mouse. So, yeah, number 5, The Green Mile. All right, top 4 is all jumbled up. Like I said earlier, the whole top 10 is all jumbled up. As you guys have seen, there are books in here that you guys did not know about. There are books that are out that you guys can probably tell are out. And number 4 is a book that was kind of a surprise, but realistically I knew when I read it was going to be top 10 territory, and that is The Dead Zone. This book was great, and I'm so happy I finally read it. It took me forever to finally get to it. I knew that when I read it, it was going to be a top contender, and it did not disappoint. Johnny Smith gets in an accident. Actually, when he's younger, he falls on some ice, bumps his head, and kind of gets like this precognition type thing where he can kind of see the future. And then when he gets older, he gets in a car accident, and that's what really opens his mind to being able to see stuff in the future. When I did a slight review of this, I think I did it in a recent reads, in October, I had mentioned there was a difference in one particular scene where in the movie he mentions like a pee-wee hockey team going on some ice and saying that they shouldn't go out there because it's going to break. And then in the movie, it's a high school graduation party, and there's like no electrical rods. The place gets struck by lightning and it burns down. That's like the only real significant difference that I know of in this book. Otherwise, it's pretty darn true, the movie is. And I, like, the big politician guy is just such a douche. I absolutely hate him. Yeah, it's Greg Stilson. He's the politician guy who's, like, eventually wants to run for president. And when Johnny Smith shakes his hand, he sees, like, World War III breaks out, and it's, like, all hell. And he's, like, trying to avoid that, and it's such a great story. I also feel bad for Sarah because her love interest Johnny is in a coma for a couple years, and it's like, do I move on? Do I wait for him? Eventually she moves on. It's just, it's sad. So, this book is just so good. It's definitely top 5 material, sitting at number 4. It's just such a good book. If you have not read this yet, please do. I held it off for too long, and although I am kind of glad I did because I did read some top contenders early on in my Stephen King journey, and now that I've read Needful Things, The Dead Zone, like, I'm kind of glad I put a couple off that a lot of people have liked. So, and number 4 is The Dead Zone. All right, top 3. My top 3 Stephen King books are, like, hard to top. Like, even The Dead Zone couldn't do it. So, I don't know if anything really will. Maybe 1122, but who knows? I don't know if 1122 is one I'll even like. But, so, the only reason why this is at number 3, by what I will say, is because it was not done in the rereads, and it's a book that I know is probably going to end up being number 2 in the future, but for right now, just because I didn't do it in the rereads, it is now number 3 in my all-time favorite Stephen King books. The other 2, I just think, beat it out. And again, the reason I'm putting this at number 3 is I didn't read it during the rereads, so I can't rightfully still put it above the other 2 books. So this book is big, and it's large and in charge. It is about a creature from, I believe it's called the Prim, and he goes by many names, and the most common one that everyone knows is Pennywise the Dancing Clown, and he terrorizes his town in Derry. Well, not in Derry, the town is Derry, and he feasts on children, and every 27 years he comes back. And one of the kids, Mike Hamlin, kind of points it out during like a school presentation, saying like every 27 years this thing kind of, like, a bad event happens in Derry. There's like the Easter egg hunt in this time period. There was the whole, I think it was a mine shaft collapse or something like that, or an oil rig blew up or something like that. Again, this is one I did not reread, so I don't remember every event perfectly. But and like all the adults just kind of seem to ignore it, and that's something that kind of happens in a couple of the King books when it comes to children. It's like the adults just kind of are like, whatever. And this is the best prime example. This is actually what made me like jokingly think that like R.L. Stine is Stephen King, because like all the adults in the Goosebumps books are just like dumb, and they just are like, nah, you guys are fine. But back on topic with it. This group called the Losers Club is what is trying to, they eventually defeat it, they send it back, but really I think it's just because his cycle was over, and they're all like, alright, but if it's not dead, we need to come back. And this is told in many different parts. There's like the interludes with Derry, there is the parts where they're children, and then there's parts where there's adults. And normally time jumps don't work for me, but it worked in it for me a lot. And this book was just so good. Again, when I redo this, when I do eventually reread it, very strong chance it could end up at number 2, but I don't know if it's going to beat my number 1. So, at number 3 is It. Alright, coming in second place is, at this point, you guys probably are not going to be that surprised with what is my top 2. The order of which, I will say, number 2 is Pet Sematary. So, at this point, you guys should know what number 1 is. But this book, when I reread it, was still creepy and eerie. Louis Creed, in my opinion, is still a dumbass. I just don't... He literally gets warned so many times not to go back to the pet cemetery, but, like, he's stupid. And ultimately, it leads to his demise. So this book is about a family that moves to this town. He becomes the college doctor, and his name's Louis Creed, so the Creed family. And there's this road separating him and his neighbor, Judd Crandall, and he warns them, like, you don't want to go down that road. That was like a very terrible impression, but we're going to leave it. But pretty much he's like, this road takes so many animals' lives. There's actually a pet cemetery on your property. And the little girl's like, ooh, I want to see it. And so they go and they see it. And they're like, eventually Judd's like, make sure you get your cat neutered because non-neutered animals tend to wander around. And he does it. And eventually Church ends up still getting hit by a truck. Okay, so Danielle and I are in the midst of editing this video, so I'm going to kind of insert myself into this portion. So I literally just went on this 3-minute rant pretty much bashing the mom for everything that took place in this book. I will say it's unnecessary and necessary for me to do that just because I agree with my statements that it was kind of her fault this happened. But at the end of the day, it was just kind of too long, and it was just too much. So, in short, I'm just going to say I feel like, this could have been avoided if the mom was just kind of like, okay, it's just an animal. Let's just introduce death to our daughter. It's no big deal. But, yeah. So, I'm inserting myself into this video. That's why I kind of look like this, because we're editing it, and it just kind of... The 3-minute rant kind of seemed very unnecessary, so unfortunately you guys don't get to see that. So let's get back to the video. I don't know. I blame the mom for this book in my entire opinion. That's the short of it. I blame the mom for what happens in this book. You guys might disagree with me. Go ahead, disagree with me. But all this could have been avoided if the mom was just like, let's just introduce her to death. There you go. 60-page short novella. That's it. So yeah, Pet Sematary's number 2. Alright, so we are in the number 1 territory, and if you guys have not figured it out based off the previous 9 books, number 1 is The Shining. This book is so good, it's stupid good. It's like unreal. A lot of people actually don't like this book. Let me know in the comments why you don't like it if you are one of those people who does not like this book. Make sure you let me know. I will try and keep this brief because obviously number 2, I had a pretty big rant going on in that book. But this book is just so great. The family aspect of them being isolated, the dad's alcoholism being a big factor in it. The kid has got this really cool ability called the Shine, The Shining. It was originally called the Shine. And he's able to, communicate with people that also have it, like Dick Halloran. And he's able to kind of see things that other people can't. And the Overlook Hotel is pretty much like saying, I want your son. But they're lying to Jack saying upper management wants you. And they're like using him to get to Danny. And it's such a good book. I absolutely love it. And after reading this, I know I went on a rant when I did movies saying how I hated the TV miniseries. It's cheesy at times, yes, but at the end of the day, I enjoy the TV miniseries a little bit because it's true to this book, and I still think Kubrick's is a little better, but it's kind of grown on me a little bit, I'll say. But at the end of the day, this book is my all-time favorite Stephen King book. I don't even know why I had it at number one to begin with in my journey with Stephen King. Like this, it's my all-time favorite horror movie. It's my all-time favorite book. I just can't deny it anymore. The Shining is my all-time favorite Stephen King book. So, there you have number one, The Shining. Alright, so that was my updated top 10 Stephen King list. Obviously, there's a lot of ones that are missing that have been previously on there. Desperation's gone. The Long Walk, which I honestly was surprised was going to get booted out, but at the end of the day, I just kind of had a feeling with these other top dogs I was reading. The Long Walk eventually kind of faded away. Maybe when I do my Bachman rereads, I might enter it again. Who knows? But yeah, let me know your top favorite Stephen King books down below. You don't have to do a top 10, but if you want to, go ahead. Otherwise, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We are so close to 3,000 subscribers. Again, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe because we have lots of fun on here. Later.